listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
Welcome into the GM Shuffle. Geoff and Marty, DraftKings, the crown is yours. I am Geoff Schwartz, 8 years National Football League, alongside Marty Hurney, 30 years in NFL front offices, and we have a great show for you guys on this Thursday, heading into Divisional Round Weekend. 4 NFL games, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. We will cover those for you in detail. Some analysis on where those teams are at right now, what they need to do to win, how one might win or lose in this game. We'll give you the point spreads as well as usual, whatever we can find you guys on draft, including some props. Marty, I make an announcement, maybe officially top of the show. Done with sides. NFL sides done for the season for Geoff Schwartz, but we will have props for you guys moving forward here. But first, Marty, we're getting all on that. Sir, do you get like an itch right now as a former general manager with all these coaching hires? Like, do you want to jump back into this? Are you like excited? Is this like your time of year right now?
No, I want to go to the bathroom and throw up. My stomach gets tight just thinking about all the stress and everything you got to go through. And I've been thinking about Joe Shane all morning. It's just it's hard because I think that a lot of people don't really understand the general manager's job in this league, and you know, the coaches are the high profile position, Geoff. So you know, I get it when this coaching, hiring, and the general managers are sort of pushed to the side, but it takes two. It really takes a marriage to have a successful organization that sustains winning. And it was, you know, it was a very challenging process both times. I went through it 2 times, and the first time we hired John Fox, who I had spent a year with at the Chargers, and the second time we hired Ron Rivera, who I liked early on and recommended it to Jerry Richardson, and I thought they both worked out well, and the relationships I had with them were both very healthy, you know, give and take relationships, which you need. But this whole process is just it's very stressful. You have to be able to manage a lot of people. There are a lot of people in the owner's ear. There's a lot of people in everybody's ear. You have to navigate, as a general manager's main job is, you have to navigate the organization through one of the most important processes they will go through. And hopefully this is the last time you do this for a long time. So, no, I don't miss this part of it, Geoff. I really don't. I think of the people that are going through it, and it's hard. I thought of, you know, when I heard Mike Tomlin said that his family was a big consideration in his decision, and that just brings back how hard this job not only is on the person that is in a head coach or general manager position, but it does affect their families as well, as because you hear things. You know, you have to have thick skin. So, no, long answer to your question. No, I don't miss it.
Well, you mentioned Mike Tomlin. He makes 9 head coaching jobs available at the moment when he stepped down the other day. On that end, Marty, was this a mutual decision where ownership just said to him, hey, man, like, maybe we have to make a change, or there was some talk before the game or in the last month or so about starting fresh, and Tomlin just decided, hey, I've done what I can, kind of move on? Do you think Tomlin just made the decision independent of anything Pittsburgh had told him?
I think Tomlin made this decision, and just listening to Art Rooney, he said that it didn't shock him, but he didn't expect it. And I think that was a very honest valuation of what happened. And, you know, he said that he was going to let Mike give the reasons and explain why, but he did mention that, you know, Mike brought up his family. And when you're in the same place for 19 years, Geoff, and if people are getting disenchanted with you, no matter how much you've done, you really do. I mean, my kids are out of school, but you really do think about the big picture. And I would be surprised to see Mike Tomlin take a head coaching job right now. I think he will go into TV. We can talk about John Harbaugh. That kind of does concern me a little bit, just coming right back into the fire. But no, I think this was Mike Tomlin's decision.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin most definitely will be, I think, on the TV side. It's your, maybe VSiN. He'll come join our podcast. We'll have a third. We'll have a coach. We'll have a player,
There you go.
coach, and general manager. There'll be no disagreements whatsoever, anything that we all think. So maybe we'll get Mike Tomlin in the seat with us next year as well. You mentioned John Harbaugh. Reports this morning on Thursday. Today is the 15th, that John Harbaugh has taken a job with the New York Giants. 5 years, $100 million. They announced the salary like a player for the first time maybe I've ever seen. Maybe John Gruden was another one, but the money's out there. We know that's what coaches make anyways for top dollar. It was reported earlier in the week that John Harbaugh was coming to visit the Giants and that there were many lunches and phone calls and Zooms and maybe an in-person meeting as well, but that he was coming to the Giants and the very clear they weren't going to let him leave the facility and get back on a plane. I believe he was going to Tennessee next. Before he agreed to this job. So now it appears that John Harbaugh will be the Giants head coach, Marty. Is this the right hire? It did feel like when Harbaugh was fired that this was a natural marriage between the team and the Giants. So you mentioned wanting a coach with former coaching experience and John Harbaugh respecting the Giants, obviously, not being done coaching, and this being the ideal fit for them to pair together.
Yeah, I mean, you had John Mara was on the street for months that he wanted somebody that had head coaching experience. You find an organization that is as stable as there is. It's a good organization despite their struggles recently. They have a young quarterback. They have a lot of talent on defense. I think Joe Schoen has done a good job. They have a defensive line. You have the quarterback. Your offensive line is decent, and you keep adding to that, but it's not bad. This was a perfect fit, I think, for John Harbaugh. Now, there are some things to discuss with that, but the first thing is, once I saw that the Giants put out they don't want him to leave the building, I mean, as a player agent or a coaching agent, that's the first phrase you ever want to hear. We don't want them to leave the building. So they can use that, and there's a reason he got up to $20 million a year. I mean, that's in Andy Reid range, right? So that's really, really good money. My question is, okay, how's the personnel side? How's the setup? Okay, it's been reported that John Harbaugh wants total control. I get that. A lot of coaches do. Everybody's saying, give him whatever he needs to get him. Well, look at it. He was, from 2008 to 18 at the Ravens, some of his really highly productive years, he had Ozzie Newsome, one of the best general managers in the history of the National Football League, guiding the way. And then he had Eric DeCosta. So I think it's really important to get the right setup. The Giants have their guy. Now you have to get the right setup. And Joe Schoen is the general manager. I think he can work with anybody. I think as a general manager, you have to work with the head coach. If you make the decisions, everybody thinks, oh, it's one or the other. If you're a general manager and make a decision on an island, bringing in a player that the coaches don't want, he's got no chance. So there's got to be that communication. I hate the word collaboration because to me, that says that it's a group decision. No group decision. One person has to make the final word, but the head coach and the general manager have to be able to discuss, argue, and hatch things out. And hopefully, I'm hoping that that's what the Giants decide with Harbaugh and Joe Schoen.
Now, there are pieces of the Giants ownership group that do work or have connections to the personnel department, but nonetheless, it has to work between GM and head coach. How does those discussions go to figure out the power here, and what is the best way to do this? I still think it's personnel side does their thing, head coach does their thing. They collaborate, of course, on certain picks and maybe positions of need and what they want from the roster, but they're two separate organizations, essentially. How's this going to go in New York, Marty?
I think to get John Harbaugh, you're going to have to give him the final say, right? But whatever's in that contract doesn't matter no matter who has the final say. It really is how those two guys get along. And I think what John Mara might have learned if he was observing is not only John Harbaugh, but how do Joe Schoen and John Harbaugh, how are they getting along? Are their philosophies the same? And if they are, I think, John Harbaugh would rather stay pat. Now, there could be a structure like there was in New England. And Elliott Wolf was the general manager up there. Mike Vrabel came in. Mike was at Tennessee and really valued Ryan Cowden as a personnel guy. They brought him up as vice president of personnel, I think his title is now. And he and Elliott Wolf, who is very talented, work well together, and they work well together with Vrabel. And maybe there's a setup like that with the Giants, but that's their next important decision is what is our structure going to be front office wise with the head coach?
So is this something that's in a contract where Harbaugh, it says in contract, I have final word on players? It's more of an understood thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So it would be in his contract. Okay.
Yes. Yes. But there are also clauses that say you have control over your assistant coaching staff. But if the owner wants you to make a change, you better make that change, right? So, it's all about, this is more about reality and practicality than it is what's in writing.
So assistant coach wise, it does sound like Jeff Monken, his offense coordinator, is coming along with him to the Giants. I want you guys to go back and watch the Georgia teams he coordinated in their championship runs. And it's a different offense than when he ran with Lamar. He ran an offense that included a quarterback running, right? Included Derrick Henry. They don't have those pieces, right? They have Malik Neighbors. Now, Jackson Dart can run, but we want to maybe avoid some of those hits. I think this pairing works really well with Monken and Jackson Dart, with the talent he has, with what Monken did at Georgia. I go back to that offense and look at what he did there, rather than looking at the Ravens offense. So Marty, I like that grouping of Monken with Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I have too. I mean, I like Monken as an offensive coordinator, and I'm curious to see who he bring in as a defense coordinator. But I guess I read somewhere he asked for $10 million for staff, so he'll be able to get who he wants.
Oh man, I need to be a head coach. I need to be a coach. That's my next profession here, Marty. All right, let's talk more coaching, then we'll talk games next. So James Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
We're back on the GM Shuffle. We'll get to the games in just a few minutes, guys. But we want to pick Marty's brain here about these coaching searches. So it appears there's 8 jobs left after Harbaugh's been hired. There are reports out of Atlanta, now that Matt Ryan's a new head honcho, essentially, that Kubiak, the current OC for the Seahawks, is his preferred choice here, Marty. As people may or may not know, you can't be hired, essentially, if your season's over. There are rules on even interviewing coaches that have current jobs as well. So sometimes these jobs take a while to fill for that reason, right? There are coaches that are still coaching right now that teams want to interview and want to hire. They can't do that at the moment. So it feels like Atlanta's in that direction to want Kubiak, even though they still have to go through the interview process of interviewing everyone else.
Yeah, and right now, they could go through the interview process and some may pop up they like better, but I don't think so. I mean, they're just like we've talked about. I like when coaches are hired in this manner, Geoff, because, listen, Matt Ryan is the president of football, and he is the head football decision maker. We'll get into that a little later, but he is the head football decision maker. Well, Klint Kubiak has ties to Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan, offense coordinator at the Falcons when they made a Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan. And Klint Kubiak obviously is a direct descendant of that system, of that tree. So Klint Kubiak's a guy I kind of had penciled in from the Falcons ever since I saw that Matt Ryan was going to be in control of the football side and president of football operations.
Yeah. Any other coaching rumors here? I think the one that's interesting is it appeared that the Lions might hire Mike McDaniel to be their OC, but it looks like Arthur Smith is the number one coach on their hot board, which means it feels like Mike McDaniel, Marty, will find another head coaching opportunity somewhere else. So that was worth noting as well. Pittsburgh starting off with some interview requests for very young coordinators, which is exactly how they hired Mike Tomlin, essentially, right? Young coordinator. That makes a lot of sense, but it does feel like the same sort of names are being interviewed for all jobs. They hired somewhere. So will Stefanski, McCarthy. Like, we know maybe 6 of the 8 remaining names, just a matter of where they're going to end up.
Yeah, it really is. And right now, I like Chris Shula at the Steelers. You hear his name a lot. And I just...
Rams, right?
Chris Shula from the Rams to be the Steelers.
Okay, yes,
coach.
Okay.
Excuse me. My question is, to me, I think a guy who, I think he certainly deserves it as a coordinator. He's been a head coach. I think he's got the mindset. Obviously, there are things happen, but Brian Flores, I don't know, Geoff, he'd be high on my list. I just think that he's an aggressive defensive coach. I think he can manage people. I think he might have been in the wrong spot. There's a lot of stuff that comes along with it that probably has to be resolved, but I like Brian Flores as a potential head coaching candidate for a second chance.
I don't know if you saw Ryan Fitzpatrick speak on his podcast about Brian Flores, and essentially it boiled down to, he tried to be the Belichick guy, right? And by the time he left, everyone did not like him, didn't like his personality, thought he was an a-hole, all those things. How much, if you're hiring him, do you put that into your report? Because you mentioned that you like to read what players say about their coaches as the reason why to sort of pursue someone. Would you call Ryan Fitzpatrick? Like, would you ask him for that information?
Sure. Yeah,
you would. Okay,
I would.
Yeah.
And I know Ryan well enough to do that. I would have already done all those things. But I would also ask people about what the environment was like down there. And listen, that's not, of all these openings, that's probably not high on the list for a lot of the top candidates. So I just think that I definitely would bring him in, talk about those things. As a football coach, as a defensive coordinator, as somebody that's going to bring toughness and discipline to your team, I think that it's going to be hard to find anybody better.
I'm curious about when you have a job like the Browns or the Dolphins, it doesn't feel very desirable. And you're the general manager. The Dolphins just hired a general manager, right? Barry's still there in Cleveland. How do you sell that job as a better job than it is, or try to convince a candidate to take the job that you want? Are you selling them an upside on future? Because look, I think when you are a perpetually losing franchise, it's hard to break yourself of that cycle. I've been very impressed with what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have done in Detroit, because they've broken the perpetually losing cycle. It's really, really hard to do. Coaches, and Jim Caldwell started that process to be fair, in Detroit as well. But it takes a special force to do that. And I think coaches, they're choosing to be an OC or B. What do you sell them on to get them to take that job?
First, you sell them on yourself in the professional marriage, and you talk about all the things that you believe in, what the common ground you two have, what your philosophy is going to be, how you're going to go about it. Get very detailed about how the decisions are being made. I think that's step number one. The other option is you give the head coach total control, and I do not agree with that setup. And then obviously money comes into play, as it always does. But I think the number one thing when you're trying to sell an organization that has been losing, first of all, there's benefits to that. You get high picks. Maybe you're in a position to get a quarterback. But you basically have to sell yourself and the fact that the working relationship between you and the head coach is going to lead to a rebuild of the organization and consistent winning.
Yeah, that makes sense there, Marty. I mean, look, turning down a head coaching job is hard to do in the NFL, no matter what job it is. If you like what you're hearing here on the GM Shuffle, there's even more VSiN Pro. Betting splits, power rankings, sharp analysis, all for $9.99 on your first month. Go to vsin.com/subscribe and check out all these subscription options. Marty, let's get to these games here this weekend. We'll start off with the first one here. Buffalo Bills at Denver Broncos, 4:30 Saturday afternoon. Denver, as the 1 seed off a bye, is a 1.5 point favorite at home against Buffalo. Total is 45.5 for this one. Buffalo getting a win last week against Jacksonville. Denver getting a chance to rest this past week as the number 1 seed. We talked about this a lot. This is a year where I don't feel great about the 1 seeds, even though Seattle's draw might be a little bit easier than Denver here who has to take Buffalo. Bo Nix, by the way, 1-8 in his career, short career, 2 years, versus winning teams that score more than 17 points. So I think the Broncos have an uphill battle here in this game, even though they have the better team, in my opinion. But I get the better. I think that really bodes well for me if I'm taking Buffalo in this one.
Yeah, this is a real hard one for me, Geoff. I want to like Buffalo. I want to take Buffalo, and I do for a lot of reasons. But I tell you, last week when they lost Jordan Poyer, they weren't the same defense, and he's not going to play this week. He's out with the hamstring, I believe it is. And Jordan Hancock went in there, and boy, they had a laser on him. They went after him the whole time. I think that they're thinking about making some changes there. They have guys like Darnell Savage. They have to figure that out because it was really evident how they went after Hancock after Poyer left the game. So that's the one thing that worries me. But again, that you can't turn the ball over. The Bills have to protect the ball, James Cook and Josh Allen. But if I had to take a side here, I would take Buffalo.
So a couple other notes in this game, the matchups to worth watching here. Denver's run game. I'm not sure RJ Harvey is the best running back as a young running back. I think Dobbins would have been a lot better in this spot, but right. Denver's offensive line is really good. Buffalo's run defense is not good. 20th in the NFL, 30th in yards per carry. They've allowed 24 rushing touchdowns, tied for the most with Dallas. And last week, remember, Etienne and Tudor had 8 combined carries for 99 yards through 3 quarters. There should have been 18 carries through 3 quarters, but for some reason they didn't run the ball enough. It does feel like Sean Payton will understand we need to run the football in this game, and RJ Harvey will get a lot of carries. Also worth noting, Bo Nix had the 5th most rushes out of a quarterback this season. Buffalo's last in the NFL in rush yards per quarterback rushing attempt. So this feels like a run the ball game for Denver, and will ease Bo Nix into it. Buffalo's pass defense is good. Now you mentioned Poyer being out, but the Bills' pass defense has been good this year. Now, you mentioned, Marty, that they're without Poyer, but it does feel like a game plan from Sean Payton where they run the football with Nix and Harvey and protect the passing game.
I agree. I think, Geoff, instead of in addition to running the ball, I think Sean Payton, which he does very well, saw many, many years, too many times for my liking in New Orleans, but the quick outlets to the backs that are basically runs, but you get the ball out to the perimeter quickly. I think we'll see a lot of that as well. I do think what you're saying is he's going to try to keep the ball away from Josh Allen in this Bills offense, try to have some sustained drives. And I do think along with the pass, I think there will be quick outlets to get the ball to the perimeter to the outside.
So there are possible wagers to make for reception yard, receiving yards in that manner for running backs, right? I mean, those are obviously options. DraftKings has all these for you if you like such a thing. RJ Harvey right now, 3 plus receptions at minus 165. That's a little bit heavy, but 4 plus receptions is plus money. So there are ways to play this. Look, I have tended to like Josh Allen over rush attempts in the postseason, but it's set high. It's at 8.5, and that's a lot of rush attempts for any quarterback. You could maybe look at tush pushes, which we know Buffalo did really well last week. Kneel downs, right? If you think Buffalo is going to win this game, 2 or 3 kneel downs to end the game at our rush attempts. So I still lean toward Josh Allen. Look, Josh Allen in these big games, this is what they do with his legs, right? You have to do it. He's such a dynamic athlete. You have to use his legs. It's a very big weapon in the red zone. You get 1 extra blocker with the running back, and you're able to punch a hole in that defense. So Josh Allen rushing, whether yards or attempts, Bo Nix over rushing yards, knowing that he can run the ball against this Bills defense that can't stop the run. So those are some props to look at for this game. All right, let's preview the other 3 games. We'll get to our best bets here. GM Shuffle presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
All right, we're back on the GM Shuffle, Marty. We got 3 games to go here, and then we'll touch on some best bets here. Let's get to the Saturday night game here between the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. The point spread in this one is 7 for the Seahawks, total 45.5 here. Marty, the Niners are a great story, right? Playing through these injuries, winning games they probably shouldn't win.
Right.
As much as I don't want to back the Sam Darnold here, this is it. This is the end of the road for the Niners, buddy. It's too much to overcome, right? You're now down Kittle. You have an average wide receiving core to start with. Your top wide receiver last week, one of them was Juszczyk, your fullback, not very sustainable. You just played this team and scored 3 points a couple weeks ago. Seattle's rested. They're at home. I think this is a very, very tough game for the 49ers, Marty. I would not be surprised if they scored 10 or less points in this game and Seattle covered this game something like 24-10, 31-10, something around that number.
I don't disagree with any of that, Geoff, but I couldn't bet on any of it because what's Kyle Shanahan going to do? I mean, you just talked about Juszczyk. You don't know what he's going to come up with. Listen, I really do think Seattle is probably the best team in the NFC. If they win and they play the Rams, people are going to be saying the Rams are the best. But right now, the Seattle Seahawks have proven they are the most balanced, best team in the NFC, in my opinion, both offense, defense, and special teams. I think they have too many weapons. I think they are going to, I love the 2 running backs, as I say, every time we talk about Seattle. I think Seattle has a better chance of just running the ball, and what they want to do is they want to possess it and keep it out of Kyle Shanahan's offense's hands. That's what they want to do. And I think they have the defense to do that. So could I see the Seahawks shutting them down and limiting the 10 points? Yes. But could I also see Kyle Shanahan coming up with something? Obviously, that Christian McCaffrey has got to play a huge part in it. But Brock Purdy's going to find guys and spread it around. At least that's going to be the plan. So I think it really depends on the time that Purdy gets, the mobility. Can he extend plays? But I agree with you. I think the Seahawks are the best team here.
So a couple areas that I find fascinating about this game. You mentioned Mike McDonald, the coach of Seattle, defensive guru of that team, against Kyle Shanahan, offensive mastermind. They met 5 times in the last 3 years. Once as a Ravens even against the 49ers, and then, of course, the last 2 years, twice each, or 4 times. Against Mike McDonald defenses, Shanahan's teams only average 18 points a game, 10 touchdowns on offense, and 9 giveaways. So there's something about this defense that his teams have struggled with that now without Kittle, I'm curious to see. And look, they'll have a plan, as you mentioned. Will it be good enough for success? And to be fair, they've dealt with injuries the back half of the season anyways. And since week 11, the Niners are 7-0 against everyone that's not Seattle. They're averaging 34 points a game. They played Seattle once in that stretch, and averaging 3 points. Obviously had 3 points in that first game. So the matchup here, we've seen Seattle play well against this offense before. The Niners find something to keep themselves, A, ahead of the chains, and B, in scoring range to have some creativity. Niners number 1 in the NFL on third down. They're 5th in the NFL in the red zone. Seahawks defense first on third down, 5th in red zone touchdowns allowed as well. So to me, this game is won or lost on first down, right? If you can get yourself in this third and manageable, Marty, that gives the Niners a lot more options offensively, including running the football against the Seattle defense.
Yeah, and then when you switch it, and I think you would agree with this, Geoff, but I think both of us would say the 49ers' really only chance or best chance of winning this game is to fluster Sam Darnold and turn the ball over, right? And I think that, Robert Saleh does not get enough credit. Sometimes he gets a lot of credit, but I think he's tremendous defense coordinator. He's going to do everything he can to disguise coverages, to make Sam Darnold confused back there and try to get as many turnovers as he can, because I think that's the only way the 49ers win this game.
So the injuries on defense for the Niners: Nick Bosa, we know, Mikael Williams, ACL, Fred Warner, who is activated to practice, but There's a clip floating around, Marty. He's hitting a sled. He did it with one leg, and everyone's like, look at him go. I'm like, watch the clip, everyone. He's not, in my opinion, going to play even next week. If they win, I appreciate the effort, but unlikely to happen here. They're down Bethune and Winters and Gifford and linebackers, so 4 linebackers. They're down Brown, who's a hamstring injury and likely to play as well. I mean, this defense, Salah's done a great job, but
yes,
they can't rush the passer. They hit Jalen Hurts, pressured him only 6 times the entire game. Jalen had an average of 4 seconds to throw the ball. I still believe Darnold has pumpkin ability, right? Turn to a pumpkin at any time possible. This is not the right team to do it against. Like, this is not the right team. It doesn't have a pass rush, can't force Darnold into issues. To me, it's only Darnold. Like, Darnold can do that to himself, and I don't think they're going to have a game plan capable of that. You mentioned Seattle's ability to run the ball. It has been better the back half of the season. It was a legitimate struggle early in the season. Walker and Charbonnet have done better now. Some of that is their doing, right? Like, they're able just to make and break tackles that the offense line's not giving them great help. But that run game coming along has made the Seattle offense more complete. And just only the Niners can hang in this game long enough to cover.
And those two guys are weapons out of the backfield as well. I love that running back combo. You know, every time we talk about them, I bring them up. But I just think that the Seahawks have too many weapons at their disposal. Honestly, I'd be saying this is slant. I'd even think about giving the 7, but you just get so afraid of what Kyle Shanahan can bring. Every week he brings something, whether it's a trick play like last week that is a key play to the game or whatever he does. I mean, he just brings you a different look every week. But I just don't think he's that good to overcome the advantage the Seahawks have really on either side of the ball.
These sportsbook like DraftKings are getting smart, Marty, because Christian McCaffrey's reception total is normally 5.5. And that's a good number because 6 or 7 is about the max he gets. And now it's up to 6.5. It's something that I always play with McCaffrey because he's going to get the ball. He had 6 last week. He had that great little sort of motion return route, comeback route, pivot route, Texas or whatever word you want to call it for a touchdown. It's a big part of their offense. Well, Seattle knows this as well, right? If you're down Kittle, they're going to target McCaffrey. So use check over 1.5 receptions is really interesting for me in this one.
You know, Geoff, the great thing about the 49ers is that, you know, they've been without Kittle for a period this year. They've been without everybody. So really going into a meeting room and saying, hey, we're without George this week, or we're without so-and-so this week. They've been told that every week. They're so used to it. And really it's kind of been their mantra. It's sort of, I think, is what has driven them as far as, listen, you know, next man up. And you can see it on the way they play on defense. They just hustle. They run to the ball. They never stop. You never see a guy walking. I just think that they are used to this now. They've been there without these guys. Being there without George Kittle this week, well, they've done it before. So I do think that will help them. I just think Seattle's a better team right now with all the injuries.
Let's turn our attention now to the first game on Sunday. Houston Texans at New England Patriots. New England laying 3 in this game. Total ticked up a tiny bit to 40.5 here. This game is fascinating for me, Marty, because it could be gross, put it that way, right? You have a New England offense that I think is going to really struggle to move the ball on this Texans defense. We talked about this heading to last week. Number 1 in the NFL in pressures faced was Justin Herbert. Number 2 was Drake May. And that Chargers defensive line got after Drake May a lot in their game on Sunday night. And Houston thrives when they rush the passer. That is what they do defensively. And I'm concerned that the Patriots will not be able to put up a fight offensively. Drake May's going to have to do special stuff, man. He's going to have to run the ball. He's going to have to find ways to make plays with his legs, which he did last week as well. But just speaking on that matchup, I'm concerned that Drake May will get pressured and hit a lot in this game.
I agree, Geoff. I think that I think there's a stat that says he would be only the second quarterback under 24 to come into the playoffs and beat the top-ranked defense in the NFL. I think C.J. Stroud did it a couple of years ago. I just think that I've said I loved Houston in this spot. I like them. I like them on the money line. I like them at +3. I really like them at 3.5. That didn't stay there long, but I think that this defense just controls the game. This team's the hottest team in football right now, and the only way, the whole key to the game, from my perspective, betting the Texans is C.J. Stroud's got to protect the ball. He can't turn it over 3 times like he did last week. If he does that, if they don't turn the ball over, I just don't see the Patriots being able to move the ball. I do see the Texans creating turnovers. I think the Texans defense controls this game, but the offense has to protect the ball, and D'Amico Ryans knows that.
Will Anderson, 1+ sack, -136. Danielle Hunter, 1 sack, essentially +100 here. You can put them together and get a little combination there. I think they're going to try to make Drake May essentially.
They are going to make him move and have his eyes downfield and try to make plays down the field. But I just think he's going to have a hard time because it's coming from everywhere, inside, outside. I just think that they pressure him pretty much the entire game and take the Patriots offense out of their rhythm.
I'm trying to find a team sack total that might get posted closer to kick off here. I think that's a good way to play this game for the Texans. Also, maybe a Patriots team total under is something that I'm looking at as well. And when we get back here, Marty, we'll wrap up with the other side of the ball. I want to talk about the Texans offense against the Patriots defense. You mentioned Stroud being able to hold on the football, very important in this game. And then we'll talk about the final game of the weekend between the Rams and the Bears. You know, it's cold. It might be cold in Chicago this weekend. We'll talk about that next. Geoff Schwartz, Marty Hurney, GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings Network.
You're listening to the GM Shuffle, presented by DraftKings and VSiN.
All right, we're back here on the GM Shuffle. Marty, you mentioned C.J. Stroud and his inability to just hold on the football, and it was a sloppy game against Pittsburgh. He had a play where he dropped a perfectly good snap and then fumbled the ball afterwards because he wasn't secure with the ball, was trying to scramble on and make a play. Was that just nerves of a road playoff game, or do you think that is symptomatic of some other issues with this offense that the Patriots could exploit?
You know, Jeff, judging from the second half of the season, I mean, the last 4, 5, 6 games, I would say that it was just the product of nerves. That's why I am very high on the Texans coming into this playoffs, and I was doing it because I thought I saw the offense improving in increments as the season got closer to the end. And I thought C.J. Stroud was starting to play pretty well. So I'm going to chalk it up to playoff jitters. But if it wasn't, if he does that, then obviously, the Texans cannot turn the ball over against the Patriots and win this game. I mean, they might be able to do it once, but you can't do what you did last week. You have to control the ball, and they know that. D'Amico Ryans is coming in this game and saying, okay, listen, let's possess the ball, keep the ball, don't turn it over, and let our defense wreak havoc on the Patriots offense.
Yeah, I agree there. I do lean Houston in this game. The last game of the weekend, Rams at the Bears. Rams favored by 3.5, total 48.5. It's going to be cold, Marty. That's what we're told. The poor Rams go play a road game in the cold. However, will they survive the harsh conditions of a Chicago winter? Most overblown thing in the world. They played in the snow last playoffs, guys. Like, they didn't lose that game there in the snow.
Starting quarterback played in the NFC North for most of his career,
Correct.
Right? I mean,
correct.
He's playing in Chicago. He's played in Green Bay. I mean, I know he played in Detroit, but still.
And the record, the record is like he's 2-8 in games but that was with the Lions. Like, that wasn't with the Rams. But that doesn't matter here. Look, this game to me, it's what trend is the one that breaks. Or maybe they'll all hold true. The Rams this season have been a team that has played well early in games, been leading in the game, and then blown the lead either to come back or just blow to lose game outright. The Bears have started very slow and have come back now 7 times, trailing under 2 minutes left to win the game. So which one gives here, Marty? Or it doesn't. Or the Rams start fast, the Bears come back and win the game at the end. If you like that, you can bet Rams first half, Bears full game. But that's my concern about this one. Is I think the Rams will play fine. I'm not worried about the cold. But are the Bears going to do this thing where they play poorly for 2.5 quarters and then Williams comes alive at the end of the game?
Well, if they do that, they lose the game, I think, Geoff. And listen, I'm more concerned. I don't think the Rams, and maybe it's just because I have really high expectations for them, but I don't think the Rams have gotten close to playing as well as they can play, okay? But if you're telling me that the Rams are going to get out ahead and Sean McVay is going to have a 6-7 point lead against the Bears, maybe more, I don't see him letting the Bears come back like they've done. So if the Rams get out and get out in front like they do, then I think that it's going to be a long night for the Bears. If the Bears can come out and listen, we talk about their defense. They're not a stop defense. They're a turnover defense. They have to create turnovers to win this game. And if they come out and can get an early turnover and get on the board, I think they're in great shape. But if they get off to another slow start like they've been doing and give the Rams a lead, I just think this Rams team is too experienced, too well coached, and too balanced to let the Bears come back like they've done most of the season.
The Caleb Williams thing, I mean, look, he has done an incredible job, in making these comebacks, making these throws. That 4th down throw was incredible. But, the Bears are sort of breaking trends right now, right? We talked about last week that a team that, allowed as many points as they did while leading the league in turnovers had not even made the playoffs, and they made the playoffs and won a game. Quarterbacks ranked last in completion percentage that have started a playoff game. The last 3 lost. Josh Allen, Tebow, John Elway. Caleb Williams won with 25 fourth quarter points. Like this is just not traditional. And you talked about this, right? The way they're doing this is not a way to sustainably win. Yet they keep making this in these games. Speaking about sort of wagers I like here along kind of game script, you can get Blake Corum and Kyron Williams combined rushing yards. Now, it's either 100 plus at minus 164, so heavily juiced, or 125 plus at plus 150. I wouldn't entertain that. I do think the Rams will run the ball, right? This is what they do. We saw last week they got away from it and kind of lost their way in the second half. I don't think that McVay does the same mistake, especially with the weather. Bears don't really stop the run very well. I think it's a downhill running game in the playoffs for the Rams. So I like Corum and Williams to have good games here. I'd be inclined to take their over rushing yards.
And I think, Geoff, we don't give the Bears running game enough credit. I mean, they are a truly balanced offense, and that's what makes, I think, Caleb Williams as successful as he's been is because he's not throwing the ball 50 times a game, and he's got a running game that can put him in second in medium and third and short. And I think that's been a huge key to the Bears offense, and I think that's going to be a key in this game. They have to be able to run the ball, control the ball, possess the ball.
Why has the Rams defense just not been as good in the last 6-7 weeks than they were previously? Is it just getting, is it injuries? Is it guys just not playing as well as the season goes on? Because their defense started the season really well, Marty, just hasn't played as well back half. If they get back to the form they were in the first 8 weeks, the Bears are in trouble.
No question. Everybody's in trouble if they get back to that form. But we've talked about before, Geoff, it's hard to just flip the switch, and they have not been playing like that lately. And that's just what worries me. I mean, I think this is a very competitive game when a team's hot like the Bears have been, and they have a coach like Ben Johnson, they're at home, they find ways to win. This is going to be a really interesting game, but the Rams have not played as well on defense, particularly on defense. I do think that, they are much better offensively with Devontae Adams, obviously. Their defense was playing well. I think if it plays like that, it's going to be a really close game. But I think they've got to step up and play like they did earlier in the year.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And so we'll see the Rams put together. If the Rams put together, we're going to get a Seahawks and Rams rematch, in my opinion, in Seattle for the NFC Championship game. Quickly on the weather, again, I don't know why people make such a big deal of it.
Geoff, they make big deals out of everything. They make big deals out of everything that they just don't realize that, it's just as simple as West Coast team coming to Chicago. Oh, boy, they can't do it. Now, there are some teams in the past that haven't been able to do that. I remember way back when the Chargers traveled to the Bengals for the AFC Championship game, I think it was, and with Dan Fouts and the crew. And San Diego was affected by the cold weather. This is not that case. These Rams are not going to be affected by the weather in Chicago.
Well, let's get to our best bets here, Marty, before we get out of here. Obviously, 4 games, not a ton to choose from, but I got a lot of props I want to give out here. What do you got for your best bet?
Well, I think my best bet right now is I love the Texans. I took them at 3. I took them at +3. I took them at +3.5, and I'm going to take them on the money line. I think that I just really think, listen, the Patriots have been tremendous here. They're hot. I have all the respect in the world for Mike Vrabel, the coaching staff, and what the Patriots have done there. But I do think this is where their lack of playoff experience kind of hits them. And not that the Texans have a ton, but the Texans are on fire right now. I think they go in. I think they make life miserable for Drake May. Have to hold on to the football. Got to protect the football on offense. And then, as I said earlier in the week, and I just put a small 3-team parlay in with the Seahawks, Bills, in the Rams. The Bills don't feel great about, worries me. I think the Rams are a 50-50 deal, but I do like the Seahawks, but I took a shot with that 3-team parlay. I just think I can't bet against Josh Allen right now. I think that everybody is starting to really almost count him out. The Bills know that this is their chance, and I think they're going to come out, and I don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring game, but I think the Bills can win this in 24-20 type scenario.
Yeah, I would say I like the Bills to win. I like the Texans. I like the Seahawks and the Rams. But again, I was 0 for last week, and we have all the road teams win. Like I just mentioned, 3 road teams. That's the point of the postseason, to get home field advantage, is to have the advantage of playing at home. And we often see the road teams struggle in those situations, right? But I picked 3 road teams, so we'll see obviously how this ends up. I like some props here. I like Bo Nix over 23.5 rushing yards. I mentioned earlier, they're going to run the football. Nix runs the ball a lot. Buffalo can't stop the quarterback. So I feel like that's a good spot to be in, over 23.5 for a bonus. I like first half under in Houston and Patriots. It's 19.5. You can find a 20.5 on DraftKings -130 right now as well if you want to pay that little bit of a tax there. We talked about the Houston defense against the Patriots offense. It's a big shock to play a team like that early in a game, and vice versa. Houston has started slow this year on offense, right? As they're figuring things out. We saw last week. I think both sides fill each other out early. We get some punts, maybe some field goals, and end up with a lower scoring game as well. Look, I'm eyeing taking Christian McCaffrey over Josh Allen over rush attempts, and I really like that Kyren Williams and Blake Corum combined rushing prop there. I think the Rams will have to run the ball in this game, and they run the ball well. And Marty, what's crazy, the Rams just spam one run over and over again. Dude, no one stops it. It's kind of crazy to me.
No, and it's why, and when they do it, and I think, again, Kyren Williams is very underrated. I don't think he gets enough credit, Geoff, because of their passing game and Matt Stafford and Sean McVay, but he's a really good running back.
Oh, he's really good. And this podcast is really good. At least we hope so. If you think so, leave us a rating, a review, subscribe. It's free to subscribe as usual. I make this point a lot. Just click that subscribe button on YouTube or your podcast platform of choice. We'll be back on Monday with our recap of the weekend, and we would imagine have some more coaching news to talk through as well. So we'll do that with opportunity Monday. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Take care, everybody.